really want to lose weight, but you just can't seem to get started, I have good news for you. I too used to be a procrastinator. In fact, I still kind of am, but I was able to overcome this and lose 80 pounds. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tricks that worked for me, and I'm going to show you how to turn this perceived weakness into a weight loss superpower. Now, let's talk about why we procrastinate, because it's important to know why you're doing something. If you know why you're doing something, it's a lot easier to stop doing it. And a lot of people, myself included, tend to think, oh, well, the reason I'm procrastinating is because I'm just being lazy. But that's really not it. There's a great book on this very topic, and it's called Overcoming Procrastination by Dr. Neil Fiore. Now, this book has also been published under the title The Now Habit. I highly recommend it. In the book, he explains procrastination is not laziness. Look at your life. Obviously, there are things in your life that you do. You can find the motivation and you do them. You work really hard on certain things. It's just that certain things you procrastinate on. He says that procrastination is really just a way to cope with the anxiety of either starting or finishing a task. Now, some people might wonder, why would you feel anxious about starting the weight loss journey or be anxious about finishing it? Well, there are a lot of reasons. You might be afraid of failure. You might be afraid of success. You might be afraid of how weight loss might change you as a person. At least those were all things I was afraid of. And then on top of that, most procrastinators tend to fall into this pattern, which is, okay, you've got this task, you want to lose weight. And then you start to make this task bigger. You start to think that the task is tied to your self-worth in some way. And perfectionism starts to creep in. And then you start to think that it's this big life or death task that you must complete perfectly. And then you start to think about how hard it's going to be. And so now, because the task is so huge and you have to do it so perfectly, it becomes just overwhelming. And so naturally, you would want to put that off. And so you can sit there for years and never really actually lose any weight. At least that's what I did. So let's deconstruct this process that we go through and talk about how to do it differently. So the first trick is to uncouple your self-worth from this task. I used to think that my self-worth was tied to my weight. And the truth is, it's not. We are all valuable human beings. It really does not matter what you weigh. And if you don't believe me, think about this. If you go out into the woods and you're on a hike and you become lost, we spend thousands of dollars and people will volunteer their time to go and find you. Nobody asks like, well, how much did they weigh? Is it really worth going after this person? You are valuable. What the scale says does not change that. And the cool thing is, once you get this through your head, that your self-worth is not tied to your weight, it's like you can take a deep breath and just relax, because now the weight loss journey isn't about like some judgment about like how valuable you are. It is simply about taking pounds off your body. It means that you can love and accept yourself starting today. And when you do this, it makes everything so much easier. Which brings us to the second trick, and that is to change your self-talk. So when you are procrastinating, usually you have this element of perfectionism that is coming in. And with perfectionism comes this inner critic, this voice in your head that is constantly browbeating you and criticizing you and discouraging you. And since I started battling my perfectionism years ago, I can tell you this, at least for me, the voice never goes away. Like, the voice is still there in the back of my head, but I have learned that I can choose to not believe it. And I can also proactively encourage myself. I notice when I hear that critic, and instead I change it to something positive and true. Because again, the weight loss journey is long. In fact, it goes on for the rest of your life. You have to learn how to encourage yourself when you are just not having a good time, when things are going poorly, or when you feel like giving up, which goes hand in hand with trick number 3, and that is to embrace mistakes. Now look, I still don't like making mistakes, but my life got a whole lot better when I learned to look at mistakes as a learning opportunity, and especially on the weight loss journey, because look, The weight loss journey is messy. You have to eat every day, which means every day you have a very high likelihood that you're going to make some sort of mistake with your eating. The neat thing here is the more you embrace mistakes, the more success you have. Because if you learn from your mistakes, it means that every time you make a mistake, you then make your plan a little bit better. You learn how to avoid those things that are tripping you up. So back when I was a procrastinating perfectionist, here's how it would look if I made a mistake. Like, let's say I sat down and I just overate at a meal. I would stand up. When I realized I had overeaten, then that's when the negative self-talk would start. I would start to tell myself, like, this is why you're fat. This is why you're never going to lose weight. Why are you even going to try to lose weight? Because you know, like, you have no self-control and you're going to gain all the weight back. And of course, that kind of made me just negatively spiral, and I just wouldn't try, or I would quit whatever plan I was doing. But once I started embracing mistakes, here's how that same situation went. And by the way, this happens to this day. I still have times where I get up from a meal and I realize, like, oh, I ate too much. So here's how it goes. I stand up and I realize, like, okay, I overate. And then I'll say to myself, why did I overeat? And so then I'll think about it. Well, actually I was rushing. I was eating really fast. I wasn't really paying attention to how much I ate. And then I'll ask myself, well, why were you rushing? And then I might say, well, oh, actually it was because I had the food ready later than I was planning and we had to get to class. And so I just rushed because of that. And then I'll maybe think, well, okay, why was it late getting on the table? And then I realize, like, oh, I forgot to set out the meat. And then I can then say, okay, in the future, how might I improve on that? And then I can either like set a reminder on my phone, or I can just delegate that task and tell someone else to be in charge of that, which then makes my days going forward better. It decreases the likelihood that I'm going to be rushing in the future. Doesn't mean I'm going to be perfect at it, but it does mean that I will start to do a little bit better at thinking through these things. Now let's talk about the fourth trick, which is to reward action. So remember, a lot of times we start to think of this task as like, oh, it's going to take forever and we're never going to get a break and it's just going to be this long, hard slog, which is why you need to learn how to reward yourself along the way. Everybody has their own things that they enjoy. So you do need to kind of like experiment with this if you're not really sure, but you may kind of already have a good idea of what makes you tick. Be realistic with your plan. Look at your plan and ask yourself, like, is this something that you're going to enjoy doing for the rest of your life? And if it's not, you need to build in enjoyment into your plan. Because if you enjoy your plan, you're not going to procrastinate on implementing it. So I tried to make every part of my plan enjoyable. The way I did this with intermittent fasting was I picked the windows that I enjoyed, and I also let myself eat all the food at my meals. So in other words, I have no food restrictions, which by the way, rewards me for fasting, because if, at the end of my fasting window, if I just told myself, well, all you can have at the end of it is rice cakes with peanut butter, like, I'm not going to do that. It's like punishing myself for fasting. But because I can just eat whatever I want, every time I'm done with the fasting window, it feels like a reward, which makes my fasting habit stronger. This is also why I give myself a day off every single week. And the magic here is that it just makes things so enjoyable. It gives me that day. I know every week I'm going to have a day off, which just mentally makes this whole task of weight loss and weight maintenance so much easier. Taking a day off is very restorative. I also rewarded myself for being active. So like when I would go out for my walk, in the beginning, I would like watch movies or I would surf social media. But the point was, I always have made it enjoyable. These days, I like to listen to podcasts or sometimes I'll watch YouTube videos. But at the end of the day, I do enjoy my activity. So it's really easy to get out there and do it. I don't procrastinate on it because I enjoy it. And the last trick to help you overcome your procrastination is to track your time. Now, look, this is something that I was really resistant to. And back in 2014, when I was obese, I really felt like I have no time. But for a few days, I actually tracked my time. And I was shocked with what I found. As it turns out, I was wasting a lot of time. I was surfing Pinterest. I was using so many hours to just be on social media. So just tracking your time, just keeping a little log of it for just a few days can really show you in black and white that you do have time. We all have the same amount of time. It's just that some of us, me included, have a hard time keeping up with time. It's really just a matter of learning how to manage your time better. And this is really important for weight loss because, It does take time. It takes time to track your weight. It takes time to look at your progress. It takes time to sit down and journal, like if things aren't going well. It takes time to sit down and write out your plan. If you feel like you have no time for yourself, you have no time to work on your weight, then quite likely you're also very stressed. You feel like you have no time for yourself, and you might be feeling resentful, and you might be doing a lot of stress eating. So by tracking your time, you're going to be able to manage your time better, which then makes your life better, and it makes stress eating a lot less likely. And it makes your life more enjoyable because then you can see that you do have time to do those things you love. So while we do need to overcome procrastination so we can lose weight, we can also use our procrastinating powers for good on the weight loss journey. In fact, it can be a superpower. Here's the big place where you can procrastinate and it will really help your weight loss results. Procrastinate on eating. Now, if you're practicing intermittent fasting, then this is something that can be really helpful. You're going to be in the fasting window sometimes, and you're going to want to eat, either out of habit or because you just didn't eat quite enough at the previous meal or whatever. But if you just procrastinate, just put it off. You want to eat right now, but you're going to put it off for a little while. It will help you to become a better faster, which means you're going to have better results in the long term. Now, you might be wondering, well, what exactly do you do instead of eating? Here's what you do. You watch your own habits. What do you do when you have something to do, but you really don't want to do it? Quite likely, it's a thing that you really enjoy doing. Like for me, I love to read. So that was one way that I would procrastinate on eating. Instead of eating, I would just say, okay, instead of doing that, I'm going to go read a book because I like to do that. And by the way, if you like to read and you've been procrastinating on buying my book, The Laid Back Guide to Intermittent Fasting, why not go on over to Amazon right now and pick up a copy so that the next time you're wanting to eat in your fasting window, you can procrastinate with my book instead. A lot of procrastinators are worriers, and a lot of time worrying goes hand in hand with emotional eating. So one way you can flip this on its head is to wait to worry. In other words, if you do find yourself worrying about something, just say, I'm going to actually wait till the thing happens and then I'll worry about it. Because a lot of times the things that we're worrying about are never, ever, ever, ever going to happen. But we think that they might, and that keeps us up at night. And the third area you can procrastinate in is quitting. We all have bad days on the weight loss journey. And even when you have overcome procrastination, and even when you've got your self-talk in a positive place, sometimes it's just going to go poorly. And you're probably going to have at least one day when you just want to quit. On those days, just procrastinate. Don't do it that day. Just tell yourself, maybe in the future, someday I'll quit, but not today. And if you do that every time, you'll never quit. And you will absolutely succeed at weight loss. So there you have it. 5 tips to help you overcome procrastination, but also how you can use your procrastination powers to help you lose weight. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below.